Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast with Michael Cole and Matthew Cravat. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat.
Hey, welcome to the world's greatest podcast.
World's best.
I know, I don't want to get sued.
Yeah, Paul won't sue you, I promise.
Yeah, I know Paul. He'll sue me. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Talking About the Big Stuff with Mike Cole and Matthew Cravat. And in our ears, our little fairy that flies around behind us, our producer from beyond producing the fifth dimension. He's a little imp, Alex, and he whispers to us and he makes us stop talking and stare off into space quietly for a second. And you wonder what kind of fit we're having, but we're listening to Alex talk. That's what it is. And you don't get to hear him because we love you and don't want to subject you to that. So today we're going to talk about a topic that's near and dear to our hearts. We've been thinking about it for months and months and months. Either that or my wife said today, you know what, you should talk about what the pain in the ass it is to have your family visit from out of town. So we're going to talk about what a pain in the ass it is to have your family visit from out of town, or just family in general. You know how we go. You know we're going to meander. So since Mike is still trying to get onto the porn site that he got kicked out of, I will vamp a little. Said the reason that my wife thought about this is my dad died last August. We've talked about it on the show. This weekend on May the 4th, Star Wars Day, the day that my wife and I got engaged, so I wouldn't forget the date, we did what's called an unveiling in the Jewish faith. We did a very secular one, no rabbi, just us, where we go to his gravestone and literally unveil the tombstone. It was installed a couple of weeks ago, and they put a shroud around it and tie it off a string so it won't blow away. And we go and we literally unveil the tombstone. And so both my brothers and their spouses flew in. One of my nieces was able to come in. My adopted sister from Canada, a Montreal Jew. She's like William Shatner. She flew in for it, and we all went out there, met some friends of my mom, and stood in the pouring rain. Because how cliche is that? Pouring rain at the graveside. And then I told my wife that I couldn't be with her anymore because I have to be Spider-Man, and I left in the rain. It was really sad. And so family's here, and we've had family strife because they're here. So she wanted to, like, how do you deal with that? Maybe Mike has better ideas in his youth and vigor and only having one sibling to deal with.
My sibling is not annoying, since this episode is free for anybody to stream. Actually, honestly, so if we're talking about like annoying and not infuriating, I don't have a lot to talk about in my family. I mean, everybody can be annoying, but if we're talking about, like I said, just like annoying, then I would probably be the most annoying family member.
Well, that's what I was saying.
Constantly like saying like, hey, can you go follow this this podcast or this Instagram page? Like, I am probably the most annoying person that all of them deal with, unfortunately.
Ironically, I do tons of social media and various things with my siblings, so we do that normally.
Yeah, but yeah, so I'm probably the most annoying. I did think of something that I wanted to talk about as far as maybe a little bit further down the annoying trail than just like, hey, like and subscribe. But again, it's me.
You annoyingly tell your family that they're Nazis for voting for Trump. I mean, you do that.
I do not tell them that they're Nazis.
I say that on the air.
I may have compared Trump to Hitler when I saw my family last time in person, and
said, "What lovely brown shirts you're all wearing."
No, and one of my family members may have gotten up and left dinner, but I did not call anybody at the table Nazis. I called Hitler. I called Trump Hitler, or Hitler Trump. Either way, it works. No, the thing I was going to say that is that I do, or that I think maybe like genuinely. So, when I was a kid, and many people are going to be like, as soon as I say this, they're going to be like, when you were a kid, I think you still do this. I was whiny and complained a lot. And as an adult, that has translated to some of the family members who, aunts and uncles and people who knew me as a kid, thinking that everything that I say that is somewhat negative is a complaint now. Or that they interpret as somewhat negative is a complaint now.
Yeah.
Which
You've set an expectation of what you were at 10, and now people still slot you into that.
And sometimes I understand why they would go that way, but other times it's just super frustrating for me. So I'll give an example. This is probably close to 10 years ago, so it's hopefully nobody even remembers who it was in the family. But
I'll remember.
Yeah. At Christmas every year, when we go to my grandfather's house, there's so many people that we bring in. They have folded chairs and folding tables that come in from the garage or whatever. At the end of the night, we typically do some help cleaning up that stuff. And so, I was 20. If it was 10 years ago, I was 30. I was not like a kid. And one of my uncles said, "Mike, help us. We're going to go grab this table and put it in the garage."
And he said, "Fuck off, old man."
And I said, "Let me grab a coat." And he said, "You don't need to grab a fucking coat." And I was like, "It is cold outside, and I don't want to get a cold." And he goes, "You don't get a cold from being cold." I'm like, "I don't give a shit. It's freezing out. I don't want." I'm like, "I'm not saying I won't help you. I'm saying let me go get a coat."
Which I would have done already if you weren't being an asshole.
Yeah. So it was partly that person being an asshole, and partly because they know how I was as a kid, and me as a kid would have been a pain in the ass about it. But like, my coat was probably less than 7 feet away from me, and
the argument was longer than getting the coat would have been.
But so that is a thing where it's because I was annoying, they are now annoying to me because of that. And there is some ways in which I am still irritating to them, and I know that.
To all of us. So your uncle, I can cure this, needs to go be a camp counselor for a week. So my boys had horrible relationship from like age 8 or 9-ish till Jacob, they're like 18 and 17, because Jacob was super mature and super emotionally and advanced, and Joseph, being on the spectrum, was a little behind. And as them being almost the same age, 14 months apart, the gap started growing as they got older, that Jacob was like outpacing him in kind of just emotionally. And so Jacob had no patience for Joseph. Like, you're acting like a baby, and he just had no patience for him all the time. And that was literally until he was 18. And he went and he was a camp counselor at Camp 42, formerly Camp Quest, a secular camp, for 1 week. And he had the 7-8-year-old cabin. And there was a kid who was on the spectrum in the cabin. And Jacob was telling the other kids, "My brother's exactly like that. He's acting exactly like my brother." And they were like, "Isn't your brother 17? I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "He acts like that?" And he was like, "Well, I guess not exactly like that. I guess not anymore." And that was like his moment of clarity, that he was treating Joseph as if Joseph hadn't changed since he was 7 years old.
Yeah.
When he had drastically changed. And so Jacob came back with a newfound, "I need to get along with my brother." And do they always get along? No, of course not. They're siblings. But so much better, for the last 10 years than the 10 years previous, because he had that wake up moment that he was viewing Joseph through an unfair lens.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So you need to send your uncle to Camp Quest or Camp 42, and then maybe he'll see you through a different lens.
All right. So I talked about my annoying family for a little bit. It's your turn.
So how is Sam? I forget. Is Sam older than you or younger than you? She's older than you.
She's younger.
She's younger than. See, yeah. So you're the asshole. So that's fine. But let me tell you a quick story.
You're a middle, so your dynamic doesn't work for me and Sam.
Well, it kind of worked. My dynamic with
Jeremy
kind of works.
My Jeremy.
My little Jeremy. But it's hard because Jeremy and Lee were connected by teaming up against me in the middle, like a monkey in the middle thing. So here, let me tell you a quick story about Lee that took place 57 years ago that will set the tone. Lee was about 3.5, almost 4 when I was born. And when I came home from the hospital, he packed a bag and tried to move in with our neighbors upstairs because there's a new baby in the house. I don't want to live here.
Nice.
Yeah. And which they said, "We have a 6-month-old." And they said, "Yeah, but you've had him a while. He's not new."
Nice.
So nothing's ever changed. Lee was upset that I came home. He's never gotten over it, that he's not an only child. I was once taking an improv intensive, a 12-hour over 3 days improv with Keith Johnstone, one of the people who wrote the book on improv, Impro for Storytellers and Impro. He's one of he invented theater sports from whence comedy sports came, and he was in a status thing, and I was supposed to be acting like this stuck-up teenager who thought I was better than my parents. And I did an amazing job. And the people who were playing my parents did an amazing job. Like, for three people who've never worked together, because it was in California, I was just visiting, and they were from different groups. And we really did an intense, stressful scene. It wasn't funny as much as it was stressful, because we really were intense with our statuses.
Yeah.
And during the break, people were saying, "Are you an only child? Are you an only child?" And I was like, "No, I was playing my older brother." They all saw only child when I played him.
Nice.
So that's my stage. This weekend, as we were unveiling my father's tombstone, and my mother had told us each to prepare a couple of minutes talk. She said 5 minutes max, or you can sing a song. Like Leah was going to sing a song that she wrote, and Leah's like, "Well, I'm doing both, so I need more. I need 10 minutes. I need to do both." And they argued about it and fought about it. And she's like, "There's 12 of us. We can't all take 10 minutes. We'll be here forever." So then, as it turns out, those of you who are playing along at home, it was North Carolina, May 4th, 2025, and it was storming all morning. So we were out there, and so the guitars were not brought with us. Well, they were brought; they were left in the cars. But so there was no music being played, and and we had to cut things short. And so my mother is trying to rush things along. It's like, "Stop, don't let." And so Leah's like, "I'm going to sing a little bit of the song I was going to sing, just a cappella, and we all know the song, so we can all join in." And my mother's like, "No, we got to go." And Lee said, and I'm not saying my mother was right for rushing along when she set the tone for what we were going to do, but his response was, "What?" Standing at his father's grave, his response is, "What? I don't get to do what I want to do?" Saying to my father's widow at his graveside. And her graveside technically too, because it's a double tombstone with a blank spot for her name, presumably. Which is the point where his wife was like, "Oh, Lee!" He growled at him because, like, you said the quiet part out loud.
Your mother could have said "over my dead body," which at some point
over dad's. Yeah.
So
that was a fun example of what we're dealing with when he's here visiting.
That is not what oldest children are always like, though. Just so you know, mine and Sam's dynamic is very different.
I don't know. You're really annoying, I always thought.
Oh, I'm annoying, but like Sam is also crazy annoying. Sam's annoyingness is like that she wants to plan everything out ahead of time, like to a ridiculous degree. So it's like, in 2030, what do you think about going to the Nebraska state line for the full, moon on the corn harvest moon, and she just gets way too granular. I'm like, Sam, I don't know what I'm doing in 3 weeks. Like, so that's like what she does to me. What I was going to say is about your story about when you were a baby coming home. Sarah's sister is 2.5 years younger than her. And when she was born, she had the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck a little bit, so she was kind of purple. And when Sarah saw her, they said, back then it was the window and you could see the baby, not like it is now. And
you can still see through the window. It's not frosted.
No, but now the baby's in there with you basically the whole time. You don't there's not too many times where you're seeing like a row of babies and trying to figure out which one's which.
That's when they're going for stuff being
weighted. Yeah, and usually there's no other babies in there because there's not other babies getting stuff.
Maybe there's one other kid because kids are cycling through.
Exactly. So it's not like the
little dim sum cart and they wheel them away and I want one of those.
Yeah. So Sarah looked at the babies and I don't know if it was her father or one of her grandparents or whoever said like, "That one's your sister." And she goes, "The purple one?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she goes, "Can we get one of the pink ones instead?" Because Sarah's a racist.
Well, I mean, I can understand the fear that she would have that it would attract a purple people eater to the house. Those one-eyed, one-horned, flying purple people eaters can be scary.
So I'm going to tell you a story that my mother-in-law used to tell all the time that was hilarious. So you and I have obviously never given birth, so we cannot really attest to this, but I would.
I've eaten some meals.
I take my mother-in-law's word for this, but that she had natural birth, no painkillers for both children, right? And so I would imagine that when that happens, you are not at your highest functioning brain capacity immediately afterwards. And so when they put my sister-in-law in her arms, who was purple, she thought the baby was black, and without having the all her wits about her, she looked up at my father-in-law and she goes, "Did you cheat on me with a black woman?" And she used to tell the story because she thought it was so funny. Because she's like, "I was delirious. I didn't even figure out that that's not how it works." I wouldn't have probably told that story if she hadn't always made it sound so funny.
Yeah,
But
you wouldn't know it if she didn't always make it.
yeah, they probably, if she had been embarrassed by it, she probably would never.
Told you.
Yeah, or Sarah, yeah. But it was always she was hilarious when she would tell that story. But yeah, so that's my story about Sarah. I don't remember. So I remember waiting for Sam to be born. I remember like being, my aunt and uncle were watching me, and I remember every time a car drove by, jumping up on the couch to look out the window to see if it was my parents.
Like a dog.
Yeah, I barked.
I remember Jeremy coming home. I was 3 years old. I remember, the only thing I can actually remember as an actual memory, and you won't understand this because I can see in my head, is Ina, our upstairs neighbor. I remember we had a garage that was kind of under the front of the house, and you came up through the garage, through our laundry room, into the downstairs den upstairs. Because New York City, so the house is very vertical, so it's multi-level house rather than being spread out wide because there's not a lot of land to do that.
Yeah.
So I remember my father opening the door and coming in with helping my mother, like holding my mother's hand, my mother in, and then Ina, our upstairs neighbor, our tenant actually, coming in and holding Jeremy, and I kind of have the image of my mother going by and Ina holding Jeremy. That's what I can visualize. What I remember from my false memory, that is, according to everyone, what happened. And I've told the story 1,000 times. So I remember telling the story 1,000 times, but I cannot really remember it anymore, other than it's been confirmed that that's what happened. Is that I did like a coochie coochie coo to him, and he gummed at my finger to try to bite me. Because he thought I was a nipple. One or the other.
Yeah.
So I said, Jeremy's first act in the house was to viciously attack me.
Nice. So he's 3 years younger, and Lee is 3 years older, roughly?
Yeah, 3.5, but yeah.
Okay. And how old were your parents when they started having kids? When they had
well, my dad was 30 when I was born, and my mother was 30 when Jeremy was born. So we can work out that math. So my dad was 26 when Lee was born, and then 33 with Jeremy. I get those kids confused. And then so my mom would have been if she was 30 with Jeremy, then she was 27 with me and 23 with Lee.
Gotcha. Yeah, my parents were 23 with me, and so my mom was 23 with me, my dad was 25, and then when Sam was born, it was 25 and 27.
Yeah, that's right. Because my dad was born in 37, I was born in 67, and Jacob, my first, was born in 97. So we're like, boop, boop.
Nice.
Yeah, we can keep our ages straight easily, just the 30-year gaps.
Yeah. So I may have told this on the podcast before, but my grandfather, who's my mother's father, so this doesn't entirely make sense, but you'll get it. The year that he turns 100, my father turns 75, I will turn 50, and Logan will turn 18. And so a couple times I've said like, oh, we should have a big party that year because it's like all big birthdays for the four of us. And my dad, when he first got diagnosed, was like, well, I'm not going to be around. And I was like, you could be. It's not that far away. You could be. And he's like, no, I'm not going to be. I promise you.
I will be sure of it.
Yeah. But
that's why at my grandfather's 100th birthday party, we have a video of it. One of my dad's friends was taking video. A number of my dad's smart ass friends made jokes about my grandfather coming to their 100th birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 people who made that joke were the first 3 people to die out of my dad's friends. like that was a bad joke to make.
Yeah. My cousin, so like I just said, my grandfather will be 100 when I turn 50. as you can tell, that means we're 50 years apart.
Wait.
Good math.
Wait. Yes.
So my cousin is 13 years younger than me. Yeah, 13 years younger than me. My grandfather set up some stock stuff a few years ago, like little bits of stock to start us off.
Like goats and cows.
No, I think he gave us each like $500 to start off, and with a lot of paperwork on how to invest it, and there's been other like sprinklings of money throughout, but the first one was I think $500 each, with some paperwork on this is what I want you to do. I want you to research and figure out what you're going to invest in, blah blah blah. And because my youngest cousin on that side just turned 21 last week, and I'm about to turn 41, so and I'm the oldest cousin, so a wide range of us, right? So my grandfather's given us this speech, and this is 6 or 7 years ago on Thanksgiving, and he says to all of us, I'm going to do this so that you guys will be set up so that when you retire, when you turn 65 and you decide that you're ready to retire, you can come to my grave and you can say, thank you, Grandpa, for getting me set up and getting me started on this. And my cousin, who was born in 1997, so he's 13 years younger than me, goes,
Jacob's age.
Yeah, goes, Grandpa, I'm just going to come say it to you in person. You're going to still be alive, right? And I was like, he's going to be 117 when you're sick, or no, that's when he's 50. When my cousin turns 50, I'm like, he's going to be like 135, 140 when you are 65 years old. Like, he's not going to be alive. And my grandfather probably would want to be if he could live that long. Personally, it sounds horrifying, but
unless you can, move your brain to other younger bodies that actually work.
I'm not worried about moving my brain to other younger bodies, if you know what I mean. I'm worried to give out getting brain.
Oh yeah, you used to be Catholic, like those young bodies. I get it.
Hey,
it's hard to break habit.
I don't mean illegal young
habit to break. I get it. It's hard.
We have 3 viewers now. I don't know who. Oh, I don't know. But it's Lord Bacon the Destroyer, Josh G, and I don't know who the third person is. So, yeah, no, I know that's you.
We know it's you.
But the third person, I can't tell who it is. So let's ease it on the calling everybody we know child molesters.
Oh, only the Catholics.
Well, that's my entire family.
That's not my fault.
It's not my fault.
Luck pill.
It isn't my fault that everybody else is Catholic. That's not a luck pill thing. That's just a true statement. I did not make anybody else Catholic. If Logan was Catholic right now, then we would have a conversation about it. But Logan is not Catholic. Partly because of we just jumped up to a fourth viewer.
Of your family, the word is spreading. Talking about your family.
They were like, Mike's very old co-host is calling everyone in our family, child molesters because we're all Catholic.
I mean, you might just be supporters of child molesters. I understand it doesn't mean you do it firsthand. You just give tithing to
just apologists.
Just apologists. Just supporters. You know what they say? 10 child molesters at a table, and you're at a table. If you're over 12.
I've never heard that before.
First time it's ever been said. The old joke is if there's 10 Nazis at a table with you, there's 11 Nazis at the table.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and they start popping. So we can talk more family issues. So yeah, so it's interesting dynamic when both my brothers are here at the same time.
Yeah,
because my younger brother, my older brother, have always been close. Like it was always the two of them versus me. So Jeremy's more likely in some ways, and so they've always gotten along. Like they're both into sports and other things, and the same way. But as they've gotten older, Jeremy has less and less patience for Lee. So it's so much fun for when they're here that Jeremy just wants to vent all the time.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, and you're probably not going to be able to answer this honestly, but
I'll lie then.
Yeah, but I will. I don't know that you'll be self-aware enough of this, but middle children always think it's everybody against them. Is it possible that it's not really them against you?
Oh no, 100%. Okay. Well, not anymore. Like not now. Okay. It's not. That's not the current dynamic. That was the growing up dynamic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was more Lee recruiting young Jeremy who didn't know better to be on his side.
Yeah. So my mom is the middle of 5, and but the age ranges are weird. So it was my aunt in December of 58, my uncle in March of 60. So they're 15 months apart or whatever, and then my mom in April of 61. So it's like boom, boom, boom. Then my next aunt was born in 65, and then the last aunt was born in 70. So the one that was born in 65 has mentioned that she's the middle child, and my mom's like, "The fuck you are." My mom's like, "I'm the middle of 5," and it's like, in some ways, yes, but my mom was the baby for a few years, and then that aunt was the baby for a few years. And
Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's funny, like same, like that kind of experience and self view of herself. The reason that Jacob and Joseph are 14 months apart, like we intentionally like wanted to have them close together because Madhavi and her sister are like 4 years apart. Like
Oh, yeah.
her sister's Lee's age, and we never got along with our older siblings, and we were always like, our older siblings were only children who remembered being only children when they were young enough, and even after we were born, for the first 2 years, we're not fully
Yeah.
engaged humans, so they're still kind of an only child with a baby in the house.
Yeah. I don't have any real memories before Sam was basically the same functional
Yeah,
level as me.
that's what we wanted with Jeremy.
Yeah.
With Joseph and Jacob. We didn't want Jacob to remember being, and then we were worried when Leah was born because there was that gap there of 4 years between Joseph and Leah. So we were really nervous, and we like Leah was born in October, and like Christmas break, I guess we went to Myrtle Beach for the week, which we tend to do some Christmases. It's a really nice. It's nice. Most of the restaurants are open. A lot of the activities are open, but it's not crowded, so we always like to go there.
Yeah.
And we've discovered with Jacob, and then true with Joseph and Leah too, the babies start sleeping through the night while we're there. And whether it's because we're running around like crazy on vacation and nap schedules are weird, or if it's the ocean air, or if it's the tequila, whatever it is, they all slept through the night while we were there.
Nice.
But while we were there, we took Joseph to Build-A-Bear to be a special moment for Joseph. So it's not all about baby Leah.
Yeah.
And we let him pick out what he wanted. He wanted this little white dog. And we let him stuff the dog and pick the heart, put the heart in the dog, and pick the accessories for the dog. And then you get to the end and you fill out the adoption papers and we say, "What do you want to name the dog?" And he says Leah. And we're like, "No, that's the baby's name." And he goes, "Yeah, but I want to name the dog Leah because I made it for her. It's her dog." And we're like, "Why are we spending $40 on a fucking toy that's supposed to cheer you up?" And you're giving it to her. This is not the point.
You're being too sweet, you little fuck.
We're all worried about him taking it like he's not the baby anymore, and he's giving the present to her.
Yeah. No, that's a really sweet story. What is the age difference between Joseph and Leah? Like 4 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
1998 and 2002.
And they were both Novembers, right?
No, they're all close. Jacob is September, Joseph is November, Leah's October in between them. But so they're up the 3 months in a row. They're all.
Yeah.
And I'm November, and my dad actually is November 17th, which is Joseph's birthday. They had the same birthday. We shared a birthday.
I knew Joseph had the same.
Yeah, he was.
And you posted that picture yesterday, so I knew it was November 17th. I couldn't remember what Leah's was.
But yeah, hers in October.
Nice. Yeah, I had something to say, but I forget. Oh, I was gonna say about Sam. I don't remember before Sam was born. Other than that, like jumping up on the couch memory, which is like, at this point, I remember telling the story more than I probably remember the actual event. Yeah. So I don't really remember anything prior to Sam being
It's terrible being a skeptic because you have to acknowledge that
yeah.
I don't know if my story is 100% true. I just know it's what I've always said, and people have said that's what happened.
Well, people used to tell me like, "Oh, you don't remember that? That's just something that." And then eventually, I like said it in front of that aunt and uncle, and I described the couch or whatever. But that what I'm talking about right now was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So like, I don't remember that now. I just remember telling that story that time.
The thing is, like, at some point, I remembered the story. It was my oldest memory. But over time, I remember the story, not the event anymore.
It's like the brain version of your cells regenerating every 7 years.
A copy of a copy of a copy. Like each time you talk about it, you're remembering talking about it.
Yeah. But with Sam, so since I don't remember that, or despite not remembering that, very often with my parents, I refer to prior to June 6, 1986 as being the good old days.
Yeah.
And my parents always laugh, or I'll be like, "Oh yeah, before Sam, the good old days."
Yeah. The other good story of childhood was my first birthday party, not my first birthday party, but my first birthday party with kids coming over to celebrate my birth. I don't know if I was 5 or 6, whatever. It was one of those, ages. Like it wasn't like toddler because we didn't do like preschool the same way, so
Yeah.
we didn't have those little parties. So it was more of a kindergarten, kind of a first grade age or whatever it was. Again, I don't really remember this is the story it's told. That Lee went upstairs to bring down chairs to help borrow chairs from our upstairs neighbor to have more chairs, at the party. And he insisted on carrying 2 chairs, the same folding chairs, down the stairs at the same time, not just one, because he's a big boy. And so he then tumbled down the stairs, broke the chairs' fall. The chairs landed on him, so they were okay, but broke his arm, thus canceling my birthday party because it's all about him.
When I was a little kid, so I don't know if Sam was born yet to give context.
It was
so
the good old days.
it was either the good old days or she was like an infant. I was very young.
So the okay old days.
So I was probably under 2. I could have been like as little as like 1-ish. My mom and my grandfather were holding my hands walking somewhere, the way little kids do. And I tripped, and my mom went to like catch me so I wouldn't scrape my knee or my face or anything else, and
dislocated your shoulder,
broke my arm.
Broke your arm,
and I don't remember any of that. I can't tell you which arm it is. Like I have no like scarring or any. I have no.
I know
reason.
that she hated me and she broke my arm, but I don't remember her doing it.
But for years, my dad and I would make jokes about, well, clearly, Dad loves me more because he didn't break my arm. So, yeah. It's looking like that. He'd have to really be trying at this point.
And he's got reason to, so.
Yeah.
I broke one of my dad's ribs, and Lee broke one of my dad's ribs, too. Lee did it, like, coming off from college. He hugged him and went scrunch to show how strong he was. He kind of gave him a bear hug, and he cracked a rib. Right before we were going out that night to see a off-Broadway play, like in the Village, and it was a comedy. And every time my father laughed, he was in agony because his... And then this lady slipped and fell like right in front of my father. He just watched her fall because he couldn't lean over to try to catch her. And then he didn't help her up. Like people coming from the sides, and I was a teenager, so I wasn't much help to help her up. But someone came to help her up, and they're all scowling at my father like he's this asshole who wouldn't help pick her up. And he's explained, my son broke my rib. I can't lift her up.
I have a broken rib, yeah.
I broke his rib, but we were play wrestling in his room, and I did a somersault and like landed on his rib cage and cracked a rib.
Yeah,
that was the last time we did our wrestling.
When I broke my arm, that was the only time I've broken a bone. So I don't remember. Luckily, I don't know what that pain feels like.
Well, if you have a heavy enough rat paperweight, maybe we can work on breaking a bone for you.
Yeah, and I think we can go ahead and make the announcement now that podcast will be coming out soon because we're recording the final episode tomorrow night, and then I'll just edit them and release them. But along with that is going to be a short film. It's technically 3 short films mixed into one longer short film, but
3 short films on a shared theme. Is that what that is?
Well, and ours is a film within the film. So is the second. So there's the one big film that has 2 little films in it, and
so it's an Inception film.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it's going to be called The Completionists, and I'll if it's already up or whatever, I'll link to it in the show notes because that's going to be. I've been working on it for about a year. It's only gonna be like 6 or 7 episodes, but because we were making that short film, there's a lot involved in that.
So those of you who watch Brooklyn Brothers Food Review with crossover with Chocolate Diamond Media, where Alex and I were covered in fake blood while trying Dave's Hot Chicken, you will finally see the film and the reason that we were covered in fake blood.
Yeah. And there's been a lot of people asking about like when's it coming out and stuff, and you guys, to your credit, you and Alex have not really bothered me about that. I guess my friends have been bothered by their casts and crews, and it's just like films take a while.
Go out and bitch about what a slack ass you are about it not being out. Like we felt like we did a lot of good work on that.
Yeah, and it's coming out, but it's coming out right. That's the key. When you're making a film, you have to get it right. We had to do some reshoots. So anyway, little self-promotion
And we
that I've
should
heard.
say co-starring the beautiful and talented Madhuri Kurvat.
Yes, yeah. Even though you don't give her the time of day, really, you're pretty rude
I
to her.
just gave her the most time of day that I've given her in a long time. I gave her a shout out.
Nice. I mean, and your character doesn't give her the time of day.
Acting. We were acting.
Yeah.
We had a good director, what can I tell you?
Well, thank you. Anyway, so we will link to all that when it's coming out. Which by the time this goes up for non-patrons, there should be at least some kind of official announcement page, whatever, to go follow. All right. So, where were we?
It's talking about family, dealing with the family. You know, we got to deal with them. You
Yeah.
know, the choice. We're stuck with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Sharing those stories, those childhood stories that make us who we are. You know, like for those of you who follow every little thing that Alex, Mike, and I do, you know, we were on the Creator Accountability Network live stream.
a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, a week and a half ago. Talk raising money for them, and somehow we actually raised money. Like we were beating the other podcast who was on with us. People donating money and saying it was for us for our performance. I don't know how that happened. But we were with our Mike and I's pet philosopher, Dr. Aaron Rabinowitz, and I think it's important to know that he has convinced us that it's all just kind of dumb luck, that we have the family we have and we have the relationships we have, and we just have to deal with them the way we are, because it all boils down to luck in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say this. So part of the reason why I don't feel like I have that much to contribute today is
not talented.
Yeah, that is a huge part of it.
Mm.
No, part of it is that so on my mom's side, like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, I'm the oldest of the cousins. So like my generation, it was me and Sam until I was 9 years old. My next cousin was born. She didn't really become like what my dad used to call the babies Jello, and she didn't become more than Jello till she's 3 or 4 years old.
What an ass!
It's not good. It's good though.
It's horrible. I used to say they're worms. First they're worms, then they're parrots.
At least people like Jello.
They go from worms to parrots to little people.
Anyway, so
worms. Blessed is Shai-Hulud, and blessed is the Maker, and blessed is his passing.
So anyway, I was probably 12 or 13 before I had any cousins on that side that weren't Jello, and then we're not like the same. You know, we're not the same.
Right, and then you're babysitting.
Yeah. Well, I would never babysat because
of course you're Catholic. You can't leave you alone with the kids. I get it.
Everyone in the family's Catholic.
You need to hire from outside for babysitting. I understand.
And then on my dad's side, all my cousins are roughly. I think the oldest cousin is 3 years older than me, and the youngest cousin is 3 years younger than me. So we're really packed in age-wise. But my dad and his sisters and his brothers-in-law, and they like for whatever reason we would see them like once a year, and that was at the peak of it. And now I haven't seen them in a few years. I haven't seen them, all of them, since my wedding, I think. So like it's been a while, or I haven't seen. Not everyone came to my wedding. I haven't seen any of them since my wedding. Some of them before that, and so like I didn't have that opportunity to have annoying people.
We have such different family lives. Like I have 2 cousins, only 2, a brother and sister. And Allison's it's a little older than me, and Marshall's maybe I think a little older than Lee. Like they lined up, but they're kind of distant cousins. I mean, their father was my mother's twin brother, so we weren't really close. But like they lived in Jersey when we were in New York, so I saw them like twice a year at most, like at cookout or something at my grandma's house, and we didn't get along. My father didn't get along with their parents, and so like we weren't friends. My cousin Marshall, who was Lee's age, was. As issues I had with Lee growing up and as an adult, Marshall 1,000 times worse. Like we hated Marshall. He once broke a lot of stuff in our house when they were visiting, and then blamed me.
Yeah.
And Lee is like, "Why would anyone believe Matthew did it? He lives here and has never done that. The person who's here for the first time ever is telling you the person who lives here did the bad thing. How can you believe that?"
Yeah.
And for Lee to have to defend me, imagine how bad it was.
Yeah.
But so I had no cousins growing up. I literally hardly ever even saw them. By
That's
the
what I
time I
mean.
was a teenager, I would ditch them if they were in town. I'd like go to my friend's pizzeria and be like, "Oh, I have to work. I got to work at the pizzeria." Like my
Yeah.
grandmother thought I had a job there because that was my out of not having to spend time.
Yeah. No, we didn't hardly ever see that side. I have no negative feelings against all but one of those cousins. I just the one cousin is just kind of an asshole. Like, but
Yeah, I
that's
don't
fine.
have really any feelings about my two cousins. Like I don't know
Right.
them. Like I've
Right.
seen them
And then
once as an adult.
on my mom's side, I know all my cousins pretty well. But it's like so like they're so one is going to be 32, the other one just turned 30. There's like two clusters. There's the ones that are in their late 20s, early 30s, and then there's the ones who are in their early to mid 20s. And this cluster hangs out, and this cluster hangs out. And me and Sam don't fucking hang out with any of them.
Yeah.
Sam has had them as babysitters for her kids sometimes because they were like late teenagers when Sam's kids were born, and when Logan was too. But we lived further away.
Yeah.
Even when we lived in Massachusetts, we lived too far away. Whereas my sister lives 5 minutes from some of my cousins, or at least from where they lived when they grew up. So like she has a little bit, but like they'll, when I go see them at Christmas, I have nothing but love for them, and they all seem to be happy to see me. But they'll be talking about, oh, like they all went to like they went to the club the night before Christmas, the Christmas party, or they went to this, and I'm like, sounds exhausting. And we go on a vacation with since in the last 4 years or so, we've been going on this vacation. The whole family's been doing it for 25 years. Sarah, Logan, and I have been going for 4 years. And we go, it's up to a ranch in upstate New York, and it's nice because like you don't have to drive to anything. You can walk to everything. So you can drink anytime. It's like the safest place on earth to drink because you don't have to drive, and basically nobody else is driving at night. And Sarah and I will take turns, or we'll Logan will go stay with my sister's kids, and my sister will stay in for the night, and we'll hang out, or vice versa. We'll watch her kids, so we all get a night out. My nights out are done by like 10:30, maybe 11 o'clock, and my cousins are out till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning together. And sometimes I'll tell Sarah on the nights when Sarah and I are going out, when my sister has the kids or whatever, and Sarah and I are going out, I'll be like, I'm getting tired. I'm gonna go read till I fall asleep or whatever. And Sarah will come back in at like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I am pretty hard to wake up unless it's like an emergency. And so like I will the next morning be at breakfast, and they'll be like, is Sarah okay? I'm like, yeah, she's fine. Why? And they're like, oh, she was up till 3 a.m. and she was buying shots. Apparently she bought, like, after I went to bed one night last year, she bought my grandfather a couple rounds. She like, because Sarah, you haven't seen Sarah drunk, but Sarah's kind of the life of the party drunk, especially when there's no responsibilities necessary. Like, not that she doesn't get sloppy, but she's just like fun. And so like my family was like, yeah, because Sarah's closer to their age than I am. So like I have no, I've never been drunk with any of my cousins. I have been a little bit intoxicated, because I went to a place where I could buy some edibles 2 or 3 years ago, and I let some of the cousins that were over 21 have a few, and then the cousins that weren't over 21 were all like 19 or 20, and I said, "You're not allowed to have any in my room, which is room number 17, which is unlocked, and they're in the top drawer. You're not allowed to have any."
We were once at a distillery in South Carolina. It was a winery and distillery, and the tasting room, they didn't have license to serve the vodka that they made there. So you did a wine tasting of the wine they made, which was disgusting because it was Scuppernong wine. It's disgusting. But then they were like, "Well, we can't let you do vodka tasting because we don't have the licenses for that. We don't sell it here. You can get this in any of the ABC stores in the area. You can get our vodka. But what we'll do is we'll pour everybody a little bit to smell, so you can smell it, and we're going to leave the room. When you're done smelling it, pour it out in the spittoon on your table. When we come back, if anyone wants a little more to smell, we'll pour you a little more to smell."
Okay, well, should we start wrapping up?
Okay, I'm going to tell one more story.
Sure.
It's a story that will wrap us up.
Okay.
And it's about the cousin that I said I hardly ever see. The last time that I saw her in person, I think, maybe I saw her one other time, but the time that stands out was our shared grandmother's funeral. So my mother and her father's mother. She is a personal trainer, and she's from New Jersey.
I've heard the story, but I like the story.
People listening, picture every story you've ever heard about a Jersey girl. Picture every Jersey girl you've seen in a movie. She is the Aristotle, Aristotelian, I can't pronounce it now, ideal of a Jersey girl. She's wearing a skin-tight black dress that comes 6 inches above her knees, cut down to like her sternum, with a bunch of gold chains to draw attention to the fact that her funeral dress is cut down to where her ribs meet. Tons of makeup, hair teased up in the air. I think she was wearing a gun belt with 2 holsters with Aquanet in each holster, so she could be like psh, 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 and spray her hair throughout the day. My friend Jack sees her, comes over to me, nudges me, goes, "Hey, Newton," which is what Jack calls me. I don't know why. We don't know why. "Newton, who brought a hooker?" And I'm like, that's my cousin. It's her grandmother too. She's like, "She looks like a hooker." I'm like, "I know." That night, we're at a friend of my parents' house, and Jeremy and Lee and I have not had a chance really to catch up. Like, they flew in that day for the funeral because Jewish tradition, you have funeral within 48 hours. So they were both, distant and both had to fly in. So they're both Californians at the time, and so we are in the kitchen of this friend's house, and Lee grabbed some Sky vodka and poured us each a shot, and we were going to do a shot together because we hadn't seen each other so long. And so we're having our shot, and I tell them that story. I tell them, "You know what happened this afternoon? Jack thought cousin Allison was a hooker." And then Lee's like rolls his eyes. Only Jack would think that. And then one of my mom's best friends from high school, her husband was washing his hands, and he turns around and goes, "Wait, the hooker was your cousin?" And he looks in the other room. He goes, "Hey, Joe, the hooker is their cousin." And like 5 other people go, "Oh, the hooker's your cousin?" Like, so apparently everyone thought my cousin was a hooker that somebody brought to the funeral.
I dated a girl who was from New Jersey, who had the big fucking hair. Technically, Sarah was born in Jersey, so she calls herself a Jersey girl, but she really isn't in any meaningful way. But I dated another girl who was from Jersey, and she looked the part. And she walked into, when I worked at Verizon, she walked in one day, and she went to the same college as me. We had a class together, and I helped her with her phone one day, and we'd had the class together like a year earlier. And so she's like, you go to Framingham State, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." "You were in my statistics class." She goes, "Yeah." And she, she's flirting, and I know this is going to take, you're going to find this hard to believe. Sometimes I am not aware when I'm being flirted with.
I know. I have fucking tried to get in your pants so many times.
All you got to do is ask. And so anyway, she's flirting with me, and then she leaves, and one of my coworkers, who I had also dated at that point, who she was the kind of person you the relationship ends, but she'll be your wing woman kind of person. She was like, "Mike, that girl wanted it." I'm like, "No, she didn't." She goes, "First of all, they don't dress like that unless they're willing. Secondly, like, because she had like cheetah print, um cheetah print, like, tight, like, not like sweater in the sense that it was like a V-neck with, like, she had massive tits, like the biggest tits I've ever seen to this day. She had like a big V-neck, so it was like they were sticking out, and she had like camo leggings on, so like very specific
It
vibe.
hurts just to see that pattern in my head, that those two
Yeah.
patterns matched up.
Yeah, but anyway, so but she was like very, like, I don't know, she just had like a look to her, and she was like, she was clearly flirting with you. I'm like, I don't think you're right. So we're still there for the night when I get a friend request on Facebook. And I'm like, she just friend requested me. And she goes, oh.
Yeah.
So I accept the friend request because, it was a job where I could like do a good amount of fucking off. So I like, I say accept the friend request and I message her like, is everything okay with your phone? And she's like, yeah, I just thought like since we know each other from school that we should be friends on Facebook. I was like, oh, cool. And one of, I don't remember which person it was that was working with me. If it was the same girlfriend or not, but somebody was like, dude, just ask her. And I was like, hey, do you want to like hang out sometime? She's like, yeah, I'm free before this class tomorrow.
That's for $10 patrons, because crimes are always for $10 patrons. So you didn't even hear it. What am I saying? You never heard it. You guys watching the video, you did not hear the horrible thing that he confessed to. He just beat me out when I was talking. But trust me, make a comment below. What horrible
now that I have to cut this out anyway for patrons, you're just making it sound like I actually did something terrible, and all the non-patrons are going to think that.
If you're watching this on video,
Sarah will be laughing.
It was edited, but Michael Cole confessed to a crime.
No, he did not.
In the comments below, comment what crime you think he confessed to. And I'll give you a hint. There was someone else involved, and they were non-consensual. So
it was very consensual. Like, please.
It's lies. It can't be consensual when you lie to someone. So those of you watching, please go ahead and leave a comment below about your family members who you have issues with. Please like the video. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to hear more conversations like this, some clean-cut conversations. Ring the notification bell so you know the next time we have a video coming out and you can talk about the big stuff with us. That's if you've been watching on the video. If you've been just shoving us in your ear holes through the podcast system, let me turn you over to a perfectly trustworthy friend of mine who hardly ever breaks laws, Mr. Michael Cole.
I did admit to a crime on this podcast now that I'm thinking about it, but it wasn't the crime that you're accusing me of. I provided stuff for underage people. Under 21, not under 18.
Now he's admitting underage. I don't even want to go there.
Motherfucker. Anyway, just so you know, you can still have consensual sex with lies. It depends on what the lie is about. Oh, this isn't my natural hair color. That's not rape.
And the rest of my life with you, I love you so deeply and dearly.
And there are certain kinds of lies you can tell that make it still consensual.
Well, you just shut up and do the spiel. You're cutting all this out anyway.
Like, oh, I'm 6'1". I'm actually 6 feet. Like, that's the kind of lie that's completely acceptable. Anyway.
Earhole people.
Okay, if you're listening to this,
rate us in your earhole app of choice.
Sorry that I'm not as enthusiastic to do this as I usually am, but Matthew has thoroughly raked me over the coals. The Michael Coles.
Raked with a K.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, raked. I said raked. I didn't say the other thing.
Just making sure it's clear.
Okay.
Your history and background, people need to be sure.
Jesus Christ.
Let's see, as Catholic.
If you're listening to this podcast through a podcast app of your choice, please give us a good rating or a review.
I think we earned
thumbs up. Matthew has really made it so that I've earned it at least. And if you want to give us gifts of money, or you think that like, hey, I really want to find out all about these crazy stories that Matthew is telling and Michael is telling, you can go on patreon.com/talking about the big stuff.
That's a good place to find out the crimes Michael committed. They'll be told to $10 patrons at this point at patreon.com/talking about the big stuff.
Yeah, you can find out about those not crimes things that I did that are not crimes, even by today's standards. They're not crimes. They are I just am an asshole. I am an asshole in the stories. That's 100%. I'll admit to that. You can hear about those asshole stories that are not crimes at patreon.com/talking about the big stuff, where we have $0, $1, $3, and $10 options. The $0 option gets you access to the podcast as you would anywhere else, but it also gets you access to the live stream.
And the live stream is completely unedited because it's live, and you know what crimes Mike has committed.
Except that I'm not keeping it up forever on the live stream. It's just when it's live. Stream. But so the 4 people that are on right now, one of whom is our producer, know what happened. Everybody else will have to either pay for it or, yeah, we'll have to pay for it. Anyway, so then the $1 option gets you the podcast. You're so frustrated. Speaking of annoying people, you're not my family, but you're annoying when you do this shit.
So for $1, you can get our podcast 4 days early. You'll get it on Monday in your ear holes instead of on Friday.
Yeah.
For $3, you'll still get it Monday. You still got the ear holes early, but you get a slightly less edited version. You'll get some more profanity, some more stories about our personal lives, some things that you may not want to know. But for $10, patrons, for $10, you get pretty much an unedited version, just like the live feed. You hear the crimes Mike has committed. You hear the accusations I make about my siblings that don't make the final cut. You hear stories about our perversions and our desires and our thoughts and our dreams that can't make it to the lower levels. For $10, basically, we will bare our souls to you.
Yeah.
At patreon.com/talking about the big stuff.
Do you got anything else?
I just want to thank everyone for joining us today to talk about the big stuff. It's all okay as long as we keep it in the family.
Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. If you have thoughts or questions or topics you'd like us to tackle in a future episode, drop us a line on our social media channels. Engage with this video when you are now watching it as a VOD on YouTube. Send us an email. We love hearing from our listeners, bringing us topics, because if you leave it up to the three of us, we're going to eventually be talking about underwater basket weaving. So we would appreciate you guys reaching out a little bit. Don't forget to subscribe to Talking About the Big Stuff on your favorite platform. Give us a 5-star rating. Engage with it. Criticize us. We need to grow and be better, and you're going to help us be there. You're going to help us get to that point. It really helps us more to reach out and also to keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more big ideas and more thought-provoking discussions. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep talking about the big stuff.
The preceding podcast has been a Chocolate Diamond Media LLC production. Copyright 2023, all rights reserved.